Lock Season 2 has aired its final episodes, and wow, there is so much to talk about. We got the finale of the match and so many amazing moments. Of course, I want to cover everything about these 2 episodes. Is it any good? Did the animation improve? What are the best and worst moments? And what is the community's reaction to this episode? I'm literally excited to talk about this, so no stalling, let's get into it. I'm sure you guys know by now, but both episode 13 and 14 aired at the same time, ending off the season. Let's quickly start with episode 13. Immediately, we pick up with Rin and Isagi's thoughts on the game so far, adapting one of my favorite moments from the manga, and straight away, it's just beautiful. You have Rin thinking that Isagi is taking the main role, and even though the play was centered around Isagi, he still thinks Rin is the main part of Blue Lock. They're both essentially right, so in order for them to both win, they can't lose to each other. Such a peak scene, and just this whole episode in general was filled with moments like this. Overall as well, you can just tell that the animation and art quality increase. Another huge moment is Sai starting to try for the first time. We get to see his aura as well as him dribbling, getting through all of Blue Lock by himself. In this moment, you just feel like Sai is an absolute threat, an Avengers level threat, which wasn't really the case in the earlier episodes, so I'm glad that they did it right here. Bachira's monster dribbling was the next thing, and the little details from his monster aura to Aiku's eyes, and just the dribbling in general all really looked fluid. I think this is what really separated this episode from the rest. It all really looked fluid. And even though Bachira got his first moment of the game, Sendo came in defending, talking about his switch in mentality from not dating an idol to now dating a Hollywood actress. This was so funny in the manga and just as funny here. I think this episode does a really good job at making you feel the intensity of the U20 match. Like, you got the U20 Japan team doing all they can, Sendo telling about his dreams, Blue Lock trying to hold their ground against them. They're all stressing, yelling, and sweating. And I just gotta give a separate shout out to the voice acting. This was genuinely so good throughout the whole episode. Again, it makes you feel the intensity of the match with all of their emotions, the yelling, the hype. It's just so good. Some other really hype moments was Aiku going for a shot. Bro has been on defense this whole time, so seeing a defender like him so far up and actually get a shot off is crazy. And we know that Aiku is one of the best players in the U20, so it makes you think that he's gonna score, especially because they added impact frames to his shot. It was a good fake out. It actually made you think he was gonna score a goal because of the animation change. Like, somehow Aiku's a non-goal had better animation and more emphasis than Itoshi Sai's actual goal. If I was an anime only, I would have thought Aiku was gonna score here. But of course, Rin gets there last second, stopping Aiku and foiling his plans, trying to adapt to his brother Itoshi Sai. Eventually, one more play is made with Rin trying to stop Aiku again by linking up with his brother, and even though this doesn't work, Isagi is there to cover his blind spots. So even though Rin lost alone, Isagi and Blue Lock were there for him, and it all culminated into this moment where Rin is seeing that Blue Lock is there for him. It creates this wholesome moment where Blue Lock won't let him be alone and will help him out, all calling out for Rin's name. But of course, it doesn't stop there. Rin, the madman, thinks this is disgusting and wants nothing to do with Blue Lock or working with others. It takes a huge spin on the classic trope of friends needing help and not being alone, absolutely destroying that and flipping it on its head upside down, saying, nah, I'ma do things by myself. And how they adapted this was so good. It really was a good fake out again when you have the OSTs being lighthearted and then removing all of that by adding risers, red lighting, creating a horror slash creepy vibe. I'm really emphasizing this specifically because I think this is the best moment of episode 13, and it really builds into episode 14, which we'll cover in a second. But going episode by episode, we have to answer what everyone's been waiting for. What is the community's reaction to episode 13 before we hop into the finale? I think everyone loved this episode, myself included. I believe everyone was thinking this is where the animation went because you can notice a change. This episode was very good from start to finish. Adaptations, OSTs, pacing, animation. It's so nice to see pretty much everything done well. I think the fluidity or pacing of this episode is really what was the best part for episode 13, which was the problem for other episodes. Everything felt kind of choppy, as well as just the PNGs in your face, which makes it choppy. This episode removes all of that, and it's really nice. The community reaction, everyone on Twitter was really commenting about Sai's aura and Rin's destroyer moment for this episode. They are pretty much the star of the matches, so seeing them get their respective moments was very cool. Because this episode was so good, a lot of people really wished we had this level of animation, or at least care, that was in episode 13 for the rest of the episodes. They just wish the animation was like this for the whole season. There is a huge jump between the previous episodes and episode 13, 13, and then another huge jump for episode 14, which we'll cover in a second, and that's why I'm trying to get through episode 13 quickly. Remember, we're rating each episode by itself, right? So even though something like episode 2, where the goals and overall animation was just disappointing, this episode is good, and we can't say it's not good just because the other episodes ruin it. It does go the other way too. Just because this episode specifically was very good, that doesn't make any of the other episodes any better. However, it's so good to see at least they're ending off with a bang. And speaking of ending off with a bang, let's start talking about the even bigger episode. The finale, episode 14, was just crazy. Take all of those compliments I gave for episode 13 and double it for episode 14. It's genuinely mind-boggling how good this episode was. Let's first talk about the contents of this episode before we move into the final thoughts. We immediately pick up with Rin's moment from the previous episode and continue on with that, seeing his flow state for the first time. And yeah, just as you would expect with that horror cliffhanger, Rin is just as scary here. The voice acting and OST for this moment really emphasized how scary Rin is. This guy started turning up for the final minutes of the match, destroying the U20 single-handedly by himself. By drawing out the opponent's weapons and then destroying it, he's quite literally embarrassing the team. Instead of going straight to the goal, he went to every single player to destroy them individually. Rin just ran the fade just because, bro. He didn't need to do all of that, yet he did, and he pulled it off fantastically. Again, the atmosphere they created for this moment was amazing. Everyone being shocked, the creepy OST in the background makes you actually think Rin is gonna kill someone. The animation improved from the other episodes. Everything was good here. The eyes, his analysis, the cutting between characters, the visuals actually went crazy here. Then we see the U20 captain, Aiku, eventually tried to defend Rin, and the visuals of him realizing he can't win against him, and then Shido comes in, Isagi joins in, the OST changes. It just makes you anticipate what's coming next and gets you super excited. Rin is setting up a shot, Aiku is trying his hardest to defend, dialoguing how they have to surpass him, and Rin is about to shoot, and you think it's the end of the match. OSTs start rising, you can feel the emotions coming from Rin and Aiku because of their voice actors. The screen literally cuts to black, and we see Rin's shot, which gets blocked at the last second, which the ball then ends up in Itoshi Sai's possession, probably the worst possible option. And then we see 1 minute left on the clock and black cinematic bars appear. This is the moment everyone is talking about, the hands on the head moment, jumping out of your chair. Immediately you can notice the shift in animation as Sai receives the ball and Shido starts running with his demon aura popping up as well. Everyone yelling on BLUELOCK's bench, screaming to stop them. Then we get the first matchup of Isagi versus Sai, and wow, just the animation is so fluid. There's no CGIs and no stills, every character running for the ball to stop Sai with this fast-paced OST in the background. It really makes you feel the intensity of this moment, like wow, we're literally about to lose if they don't stop Itoshi Sai, and you can hear it in all of their voices as all the players are trying to stop him. Karasu screaming at the top of his lungs, telling them the stakes if they don't stop Sai, how BLUELOCK will be destroyed. All the U20 players are rushing forward, the BLUELOCK players running back as fast as possible. But as Isagi looks around the field, the puzzle pieces start to flow in, and he sees Rin face off against Sai, leading to the final matchup of the U20 game. As the OST cuts out and the night snow moment is recalled around the field, Rin and Sai talk to each other, with Sai looking down on Rin and Rin denying it. Sai eventually telling Rin that he's using him as an excuse to play, and then Rin finally understanding it now, with all these titles clinging onto him, dragging him down. The OST returns and eventually peaks into a moment where Rin believes he is himself, not what anyone else thinks of him, not the brother of Itoshi Sai, and not a rival. Itoshi Rin is an egoist. And then the animation style switches to a way more fluid called Kagenashi, allowing for way more movement, and we see that as Sai and Rin head into their final matchup. And this specifically was the moment everyone was talking about. This was just peak. You can see all the movements from all the plays and techniques that they make, whether it's dribbling, blocking with your hand, or just running. Eventually, Sai goes for the move that originally beat Rin in the U20 during their first matchup, but Rin counters it, essentially beating Itoshi Sai. As the ball goes up, and since Isagi saw both Sai and Rin dueling and believed that Rin would win, he positioned himself in a place where he can get lucky enough to receive the ball, and it came down to him. All the music and sound effects cut out, creating a silent moment where Isagi shoots, and we wait in anticipation until the ball eventually goes into the the net, making BLUELOCK win the game. The crowd starts cheering, and I think every single person that watched this episode started cheering too. This whole sequence was so beautiful from start to finish. I think I could shed a tear at this point because wow, the animation was on point and it was so fluid. It looked really, really good with this new animation style. What is this? Sakuna versus Maharaga? They absolutely cooked on this last scene, and it makes sense. This is the end of the anime. They went all out and it was just insane. Of course, there's still a little more we have to cover before we discuss the community's reaction and everything else. Isagi's goal celebration is next. You got everyone celebrating, the whistle blowing, crowd cheering. All these moments after the goal were also done extremely well. We also got Isagi's interview. And of course, the ending of the episode was BLUELOCK celebrating, Rin and Isagi solidifying their rivalry, and the two most important parts, Kunigami coming out of the wild card and Michael Kaiser being teased for the next arc. Yeah, this was cinema and no doubt about it. It sets up perfectly for season 3. I knew we couldn't fit anything else that comes after the U20 in these 2 episodes. I do think that this was a perfect way to end the season. Anyways, with all of the content out of the way, let's start discussing this episode. Without a doubt, the best moment of this episode was Rin versus Sai. The animation switch, the OSTs, voice acting, sound effects, everything was done extremely well. All the emotions were captured in the scene and maybe even adapted better than the manga. I don't even think there was a worse moment for this episode. Everything was straight fluid from start to finish, and everyone else seems to think so too. The community reaction for this was the most explosive I've ever seen. So many tweets on BLUELOCK. At the time of this recording, there was 20,000 tweets on BLUELOCK episode 14, making it the 30th trending topic on Twitter. Michael Kaiser alone had 8,000 tweets, which just tells you how this episode took the community by storm, especially because he's voiced by Mamoru Miyano, who voiced some of the characters you're seeing on the screen right now. A lot of people praising the animation change and how we went from PNGs to absolute fluid animation that rivals some of the best animation we've seen, such as Jujutsu Kaisen or One Piece. From start to finish, everyone was just talking about how amazing this episode was, or how the budget was saved for these last 2 episodes. It makes sense because they did everything right here. However, of course, there's still going to be the big elephant in the room of overall animation. The previous episodes were still not good, and I saw a lot of people bring that up. There is, of course, that huge debate of we have the rest of the season to judge. We shouldn't be pleased just because this episode was good. There is a whole lot of other episodes that wasn't nearly as good, or the fact that we should have had this animation throughout the whole season. A lot of people were talking about that, but in my opinion though, I think the best way to rate it is episode by episode. Just because the animation was bad previously doesn't mean that this episode wasn't good. You have to give credit when credit is due. They absolutely delivered here. It's a situation where do you forgive? Do you forget what happened previously? Do you accept this trade-off? Because obviously there had to be some sort of sacrificing the earlier episodes so that they can deliver for these later episodes. But to be honest, that just tells you how good this episode was, because it was enough to make people believe that, and I think you just gotta give credit when credit is due. However, the general consensus is that this was an amazing episode, the best episode by far from season 1 and season 2, just in my opinion, and I think a lot of people agree. And right now, just let people enjoy the animation. I know there's a huge debate of overall animation and if it's good, but we just got the episode and it was really good. We can always give a final conclusion later after people are done enjoying it. And I'll save my overall thoughts for one final video. We are just rating episode by episode, the episodes as it is, and yeah, the episodes we got today were beyond amazing. I'm curious to know what you think though. I'm sure we all love this episode, but do you think it was worth sacrificing the other episodes for this one? What are your thoughts on the season as a whole, or any other final thoughts you have? Maybe I'll feature it in the next episode. On a more serious note though, I just want to say it was definitely a roller coaster, this anime. Very high highs and very low lows, but if you've been watching all this time, I appreciate it so much. It's genuinely crazy that the anime is already finished. Like, it felt like yesterday the first episode aired and it was October. So if you've been along for the ride, thank you so much, and you should definitely hit the subscribe button for more BLUELOCK content. We are getting a season 3, it's been confirmed, and that cliffhanger of an ending announcing the next arc of BLUELOCK, I'll be doing a whole lot of content for that, as well as just manga if you can't wait. Anyways, if you made it to the end though, thank you so much for watching as always, and I'll see y'all in the next one.